It's definitely weird that we're doing a podcast for the
Yeah, definitely.
like so weird. Even though we like normally we're already
Yeah,
on
it's just
webcam anyway. It's just like still got the little
oh this
butterflies, I guess.
yeah, exactly. Oh, I forgot to switch over to the going live. So for like 10 seconds on my stream, it was just like we were talking, but there was no audio coming from anywhere.
I have it just set right onto the podcast screen for me. And you are dead. Your video is dead again.
Oh really?
Yeah,
No.
I think OBS is clogging up your upstream uploads.
I guess theoretically, as long as my voice doesn't go like eh, eh, then we'll be okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Look, this is the trial run. This is the one that's going on Anchor.
And YouTube going on everything.
And well, yeah, but what we can do later is I can because you apparently have fine upload to me, and I just have ass upload to you. What we can do is I can record the window, and you just slap that bitch right in there in the video editing software.
Well, I mean, I could just record mine. Like I was thinking about doing the podcast on a date that you were doing off, but on one of your days
Yeah,
off.
so that we wouldn't have to worry about this.
Yeah. How long are you gonna be doing your going live thing for?
I'll do it for a couple minutes, probably just a couple minutes, just until I usually do it at least until the bot in my channel goes off.
I have two noties.
Yeah, the bot in my channel hasn't gone off yet. I did one for going live earlier when I was playing WoW, and one that I put where I'm gonna be doing the recording with you.
Definitely definitely will be kind of a shock for us at least. New to the podcasting game.
New to the game, but I feel like as long as we kind of just go, like if we ever stall, we just what's next on the itinerary? Like
I mean, we could do that. Um, I mean, like we can ramble for a while. We got pretty
yeah,
strong
no,
ramble
I'm
mode.
not saying stagnate like we're talking about the same thing forever because that's what a podcast is. But like if we're like, hey, what do we talk about now? We could look over at our little notes and be like, oh yeah, that.
For sure, for sure. I mean, we're also pretty good at just coming up with, or not coming up with, but like bringing up other
Two
topics.
people with ADHD will usually have no shortage of things to talk about.
I'm more worried about us keeping focus and staying on track, honestly.
This was supposed to be a D&D podcast. Why are they talking about Warhammer 40K?
Honestly, it's just gonna be a gaming podcast. Like, I don't know. I want to talk about whatever.
Yeah,
You know,
I know.
dude. No. Speaking of Warhammer, actually, I just picked up whatchamacallit, the Necron Codex for Ninth Edition.
Nice.
I have no idea why I did that because I have no one to play with, but I have it.
One of these days. I
The
think
guy
I'm gonna
was.
start painting.
You're gonna start painting?
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm gonna start painting like on the chin because I have. Where did I put them? They're over here.
For anyone in the audience, Dalton has left the mic looking for something and it's off screen. So we are now patiently waiting for him to look for something. If he falls, we will never know.
Ah!
Ah! I'm back.
So, for those of you that are watching in the future, I guess Gooby has already started the recording on his end,
I have.
but I have like a big tray of minis. I also have the jar.
I can see about 5 pixels in the jar.
Oh god. But I have a bunch of minis that I bought. Like this is just a tray of minis.
You
I'm
just
gonna wait.
wait.
It's
Where'd you get those?
I bought these a long time ago.
Where?
Miniature market.
Wait. So is it just a random assortment of?
This is a bunch of random bullshit. Like there's a line of 6 zombies, some barrels, a couple gold piles, a couple of dwarf wizards, some wolves. I've got some ghouls, an elf paladin. I've got a table and some chairs, some boxes, and then I have my hill giant.
Okay.
I want to paint the hill giant on stream,
You
which I
want?
think I'm gonna do.
Okay.
And I also have like all my paints. I even have like my basing materials. Like this is a pat. This is a bunch of grass. Uh, like this is pebbles. I've got like loose grass. I
Loose
don't know why
grass.
me six. And I've got a bunch of paints as well from back when I painted Warhammer and now that I bought new stuff. But I'd like to paint on the channel sometime soon. But anyway, I guess we can go ahead and get this underway. Me six hasn't gone off.
It's a tragic life where your automated bots won't post on
Okay.
your
It
automated social
literally just
platforms.
went off.
Yeah.
Okay.
He heard you were talking smack. He's like, all right, all right, all right.
He's like, all right, fine, jeez.
Cut. Just gonna talk me down like this.
All right, well, that means that we can go ahead and start.
I guess some introductions are in order.
Yeah.
My name is Ethan. All kind of known on the internet as Evader Zero. A buddy here.
I'm
Introduce
Barkeep.
himself. Barkeep.
BarkeepAegir. I'm Dalton. Uh, I'm still small on the internet as well, but we've been friends for. You said you say 7 years old, I think.
Um, I was 6 kindergarten, so we met in third grade, so 9. So
Nine,
15 years. 15
15
years this
years.
year.
We've been friends for 15 years. That's a long time, Chad.
I mean, it's
But we
you know
decided we finally
based on the scale of things, I would say 15. For in our
15 compared
lifetime,
to
that's
us.
that's a
Yeah,
pretty good chunk of our lifetime.
exactly. And we were just like, you know what? We're streaming. We're doing all kinds of cool stuff. So we decided we wanted to do a podcast.
I mean, we
And
already do this anyway. Like, we
yeah,
will be on Discord calls and just talk about literally whatever comes to our mind or
we
whatever's
have
on our
bullshitted
mind.
for like 8
Hours.
hours.
Oh yeah, and at least this way we can record it and then put it on the
Put
internet
it
for other
somewhere.
people.
And maybe somewhere along the line, somebody will like get something out of it.
And
You never know.
for anyone watching through YouTube or through any like video thing, we're having a little bit of video difficulties, but it shouldn't be that big of a
What I
deal.
might do, is I can save this, like my recording, and send it to you, and you can like overlay my video and just sync it with audio, and that might not be super hard.
Maybe. I mean, we'll probably just put it scuffed because I mean,
You know
like it's
what?
kind of
Growing
scuffed. So I mean,
pains.
growing.
Growing pains.
Yeah, man.
Let's go.
We'll look back on this and be like, yeah, I can't even see Dalton, and then next thing you know, it'll be like, oh look, still can't see Dalton, but it's been a year.
You know what? Whatever. We're fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess
So,
as a little bit of backstory to us as people, I have been playing video games since I could hold a controller, but I am fairly like I don't want to say fairly new because when was the first time we played D&D? The first time I ever played
the first time you and I played D and
I
D was way back in
was it like
sophomore summer. So I
yeah,
think the
because that was
summer,
when I was over at Bree's house.
yeah, so the summer between sophomore and junior year. which would
That was actually
be
before I met Tim. Holy
2014.
shit.
2014. 6 years. Played D&D for 6 years. I have been playing. I think my dad took me over to buddy Jody's house over in Columbia, Missouri. I think I was 8 to 10, somewhere in that range. So
Ooh, that's really cool.
yeah, it was 3.5. So it was like that.
So
It
you
was
were
latest
lost.
2000s, but no, I actually had a decent grasp. We started at level 2. The first character I played was a fighter and a cleric because I knew I wanted to heal people and I wanted to deal damage. So I got the heavy armor, I got the mace, or it was a morning star. It was a morning star. You know, the mace with the
Morningstar.
chain.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I had a shield and I had heavy armor, but I could also cast healing spells. In our first combat ever, I got paralyzed by like some sort of like weird undead thing. I don't remember what it was. It looked like a chupacabra, but I don't remember. It was like a ghoul of some kind. I don't remember. But I got paralyzed, and the DM felt so bad for me that it was like the first combat, like my first combat in Dungeons and Dragons. I immediately get paralyzed, and they're like, you rummage through
uh,
all the loot, and you happen to find, wow, look at the coincidence, a potion of paralysis curing. And you're just like, all right.
all right.
I worshipped,
That
I
first
worshipped like Poseidon, I think too. Like it was like I
nice.
worshipped Poseidon. It's all about the ocean. It was a fun time. Fun
Dude,
time.
that first game of D&D, it's going to be really hard for me to get because I remember the first time I had no idea what I was
Oh,
doing. I'm like
we. I
I
don't.
have nothing.
Were we playing D&D? We think we
We
were playing
played that
Pathfinder.
day.
No, I think we were playing
We were
Pathfinder.
playing Pathfinder.
Yeah, we were playing Pathfinder.
Same thing. Like but I remember I walked in and it was Jared, right? That was or we called him Jared, I think.
No,
He was
no,
in robotics with us.
he wasn't playing with us. We were playing with. Um,
No, not Jesse's Jared, the Jared from high school
no,
who
no.
was like 2
Yeah,
grades
yeah,
above
yeah.
us.
Not Jared Pond. Not Jared. We weren't playing with him.
No, not him. Somebody else. But I can't remember his
No, it
name.
was him and his brother. I
Because I
can't
know
remember.
there was
I can't remember.
Donovan back when Donovan existed.
Yeah, so it was Donovan, Jesse, myself, and you. Um,
And I cannot remember his name for the life of me.
he.
You know exactly who
Yes,
I'm
I know
talking about,
exactly what you're
too.
talking about. And it was him and his brother, Donovan, Jesse, myself, you, and Tenchi, and then Bree was the DM. And
Right.
um,
And
Jordy.
I
It was
literally
Jordy. It was Jordy.
Jordy. Was
Yeah,
it Jordy?
yeah, it was Jordy. It was Jordy and his
Wow.
brother.
But I
I feel like his
remember
brother's name
sitting
was
down.
Nick, but I can't remember.
I remember sitting down and we rolled my character and I kind of described what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And I exactly remember what it was. It was a Jotun Mauler barbarian that could dual wield. And I think I was an orc. I remember it being an orc. And I was like, I want to wield 2 big weapons. And he's like, okay, you can do that. And I'm like, okay. He's like, what do you pick? I picked 2 orcish double axes. So I was literally helicoptering orc axes. And I remember that I rolled my stats and I got like all 14s or something stupid. Like I got 14, 14, 14, 15, 16 or something like that. He's like, what the fuck did you just do? Well, I rolled well. Show the character sheet to Bree. She's like, what is this? Rolled well. Okay.
Call
And
it.
I
This is an ape.
remember
This is an
I
actual ape
remember
IRL.
I remember 2 other things about that session.
Hmm.
I remember that we were going through well, 3, but the third was the final boss that had a gimmick that wasn't that hard to figure out. But the first one that I remember was that I started because this was a game that had been going on for a while. I started
Hmm.
and I was like waiting to get shoehorned into the game because that's Bree was just like, yeah, I'll bring you in at some point. And you guys are wandering around this like dungeon. It was like a citadel,
Yeah.
and it was a spiral, and you had to get to the center. And I remember you were going through these traps, and there was like there's a Bree was there's a pit in the in the floor, and up ahead you hear yelling, and from the bottom you hear help me, and you look down, and she goes that guy and points to me.
That guy.
She literally was like, and it's that guy, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm playing the game now. Let's go. And we were playing. I also unintentionally ended up having the highest constitution at that table that day.
Yeah, no, no, no,
Which
because we
was,
pulled you out. Yeah, I remember, because we pulled
and
you out,
then
and
we
there was
went
a
into,
poison trap
there was a
because
room that like locked, and it was slowly
your
feeding gas
con,
in.
your con was 18, by the way. It was not
Yeah,
4. It was because the thing was I had a
no,
17
without
con.
racial bonuses, it was like a 16,
I know,
so it was really high.
I know. And so what ended up happening was the trap was meant for me because my character was like this frog person who was evil,
Right,
and
and you
my
had like a
loyalty to the
dragon or some shit. It was
yeah, it was a baby
Snowball the
dragon.
dragon.
Yeah, it was a little baby dragon, but it wasn't designed to be help me in combat or anything. But the thing was it was supposed to be a test for my character because each of the rooms were supposed to be different tests. So it was a poison that went by Constitution, and I had the highest at the time. And so basically, I'd be the last one, and I had to decide if I would bring you guys with you, or I would backstab anyone, or something like that. And then I
And the
passed out, and you were the one with the highest Constitution.
and I remember Donovan was to my right.
Yeah, and
Donovan was to my
he
right, and
figured it out and
and I
passed out. And I was just
right.
like, yes.
And he was like, "Oh, I know how to do it." And then like it gets to be, and Bree's like, the last person passes out. The door opens, and I kind of look around, and I go, I walk through the door, and the whole table goes, "No!" You all yelled at me, and I'm just like, please.
Because you were gonna like
And she's
abandon
like,
us in the room.
and then she was like, you know what? Because you're new, I'm gonna give you a second chance. And I'm like, okay. I toss everyone through the door and leave. And they were like, thank you. Oh my god.
It was it.
I have not,
You railroad.
because
You
I
just destroyed it so hard. I loved it.
I broke everything that was supposed to happen. And I remember you were like, I don't know what's going on. And I just immediately broke everything that happened in that game
It
up to
wasn't
that
clicking that it
point.
was based on con because I didn't. Well, so it's like if you go by the physical descriptions of our characters, I am no. I would never look like the most like constitutional character. I'm like a frail little frog. But as a sorcerer, you just pick
You got a lot of
charisma.
con.
You can pick charisma, and then you just pick constitution, and you got good health. And and so I was just like, well, I guess I randomly it wouldn't make it obvious, but it was still a really good trap. It was still a good
It
dungeon.
was a good trap. I like those. I want to one day be able to design good puzzles because I have 0% brain cells for that.
You do,
But
you
like
do.
that's one of the things I'm struggling because by the way, on my Twitch channel, we're going to have some D&D soon, hopefully. It's not going to happen tonight. Hopefully next week because we're waiting on one of our players to figure out their schedule.
Yeah, Matt. Well, I mean, you could talk to me. Remember, you could be like, just
Yeah,
explain it to me. Yeah, so
right.
it's Matt. Our buddy Matt is also a longtime friend. Just 15 years, just like us.
Yeah, something like, almost, if not like a year or two before I met you, because I think he was an alpha in kindergarten,
He was
but
in
our
kindergarten, yeah.
first
So
year.
he was in kindergarten. So he would have been 2 years ahead of you.
Yeah, or I
Or
think
me.
actually,
Sorry.
yeah,
But
but
yeah, so it's like we're waiting for him because his
he works a
schedule.
weird schedule, especially with some people that are having some weird mandatory time off.
I think that's
Um,
because of the big C,
the big C,
the big 19.
the big censored by YouTube.
Is it censored by YouTube?
You can't say it on YouTube, or else your video will get demonetized like instantly.
I mean, we can't get monetized anyway because we don't have 1,000 subs. But
Not yet, but soon.
if you change that, no,
If you
uh,
help us.
who
We
are
will be
you?
uploading this entire podcast to Anchor.fm and YouTube, by the way. So
It'll
watch
go
out for
everywhere.
those links. Oh yeah, it's going everywhere.
It's going everywhere, and no
It's
one asked for it.
no one asked for it, but we're giving it to you.
Yep. So
It's weird because I don't have very many like D&D memories like that because I haven't played that much
you
D&D.
played like for 2 summers in a row in like the
Okay,
most
that is the
ridiculously
only.
dumb campaign I've ever done in my entire life.
That whole campaign is a blur.
Let
I'm
me
not gonna
explain.
lie to you.
Let me explain for everyone
Okay,
sitting at home. This is the most ridiculous thing. This is my first ever DM campaign where I dungeon mastered, where I ran the game. I'd said to one of my friends, to Matt actually, I said, "What if we were all level 50?" Because in Pathfinder, as to our knowledge, we were allowed to just keep taking levels as long as you just it capped at 20. but you could pick new classes and get new levels. And so we said, what if we had level 50 character classes? And Matt was on board. You were on board.
Was
And
Bree
Bree and
and
Tenchi were on
Tenchi?
board. There were a lot of people that came in and out of that campaign. Uh,
Were there?
yeah, so Jesse was in it. Not Vitali, just or yeah. But so Jesse came in. Um, one of Bree's college friends came in. Uh, he came in and gone. There was a lot of drama with that. Do you remember the drama on that?
I don't remember. Well, I
We don't
remember
have
the
to get into that on this.
no.
But there was some.
That's a whole.
That was
That's a
some.
whole podcast series somewhere
No,
else.
that's a post on that's a post in Discord. That's a long post in Discord. But there was drama like in both summers, and we had people come and go. But
It
the
was fun. I
the core
remember.
group of people that were there was you, myself, Matt, Tenchi, and Bree.
Yeah,
And
it was a weird campaign.
level
The
50.
one
It
thing
was
I remember,
gross.
the one thing I remember from that campaign, other than like passing out on the floor and dying because I cut my hand open, I think was that campaign.
Yep, that was that. You didn't pass out on the
Um,
floor, but you did cut your hand.
and then I
I think
remember
you
you
passed out
looking at
when
me
you got home. I think you went home and passed
no,
out.
because I was on the floor touching Max, and you looked at me because I like fell asleep for a little while, and
Oh
looked at
yeah,
me
this
and
was after
went,
the session.
you
Yeah.
you looked at me and went, I knew that when I saw the drugs kick in because I have a cut on my hand. I don't know if you can see it.
No.
If you're on podcast, you definitely won't. But it's about an inch long on my hand, and I had cut my hand open, and they had to because they kept missing the nerve of my hand with whatever numbing agent they had. It just like my whole hand was dead from like the middle knuckle up and I couldn't like feel it. And you were just like, "Oh, it got back to your central nervous system. You're fucked."
But
But
yeah,
the
you
one thing I remember
did you
from
pass
that
out before or after?
it was I think I went to sleep for like half an hour during the actual game, but it was like at the end. But the one thing I remember from that whole campaign sticks out to me is we were going somewhere. We were like in a cave and the door locked behind us. And
Hmm.
my dragon half orc character because that's what he was a dragon,
Your character
not half
was an
dragon,
absolute
not
mess.
dragonborn, half he was a
You picked
dragon
two
half
levels in
orc.
cleric, didn't you?
I picked 10 levels in cleric.
Oh, but at that point it's scaled so much it feels like it's only
Yeah,
like
it
5
didn't
levels.
matter. But I remember the door locked behind us. There was a ninja or like
Yeah.
some kind of rogue
Yeah, you
jumping
guys
around behind us and knocking us out. I rolled for stealth to try and make him not see me. Got a nat 20, and you were just like, he knocks you out anyway. He could still see you. And I'm like, fuck. I was so mad.
to be fair, like he can see he had blind sense, so it didn't matter if you rolled nat 20. Like it's just like I mean,
He knows you're there.
you're
Oh
rolling a
no.
die. You rolling a nat 20 on the die does not suddenly make you disappear from the plane of existence and then
Damn. But
reappear
my
wherever
nat
you want.
20 is supposed to break the physical laws of physics. Damn.
And I was just like, that was one of those moments where I was sort of railroading, but sort of not. So like, I
You sent
basically
us to hell.
well, that was like a point. Like I was trying to railroad you all into dying, and then send you all to hell, and then you had your little the moment in hell, and then send you all back. Like you weren't actually supposed to be permanently
That's
dead.
the only thing I remember about that campaign. I
That was
swear
the
to
best.
like
That was the funnest part, though. That's why it was so like. But anyway, so it was like I spent all this time trying to figure out every one of your characters' like backstories, so I could pick something that would make it really like what would they show you if you went to hell. And so I spent a good amount of time building the ninja. So it was 20 levels in ninja, 20 levels in rogue, 10 levels in assassin. It's it was so many d6 for each attack, and it made multiple
God.
attacks, and I
You know
had to
what
use
else
an
I remember?
online die roller, and it did so much stupid damage that I killed each of you at level 50 in one hit, except Matt.
Actually,
Except
no,
Matt.
I lived once too. I think.
Mm-mm. It hit with one shot all you because you survived the first attack, and you're like, oh, I'm not dead. I'm like, okay, so now the second attack, and you're like,
No.
yeah. I hit Matt with all 4 of the attacks that he gets, and Matt survived at like -45,
Given.
and it's like
Okay.
it was so stupid. It was just I don't know why we did it for 2 semesters or 2 summers in a row. But I mean, we were having fun, even though it was just like,
Yeah, it was just
why?
it
The
was
game was
I
just
think that
completely broken at this point.
that game wasn't meant to be a game that we took seriously. That was a game where we sat around, drank Mountain Dew, and ate potato chips together for a few hours every week.
Yeah, but that's D&D, dude. Like that's, I mean, it was Pathfinder, but I mean, same difference because it's
Same
like
thing.
that's tabletop. That's
Look,
gaming. That's gaming.
if it's a
Is
tabletop RPG set in a medieval setting, it's Dungeons and Dragons.
I could hear the furious typings of the distant lands of the internet. But yeah, so I mean,
To
like,
someone like me, who hasn't played a whole lot of tabletop stuff, just because I, up until like high school with you guys, when I learned that you played the game, I had nobody to play that game with. And I like my family. My dad's a sports guy. My mom's a nurse. My brother does something. I don't know. But and he's younger than me, so it's not like I could have really done anything with that.
you could have indoctrinated him. You could have just been like, "Excuse me,
He was
brother,
playing football. He was
come
playing
with me,
football in
brother."
middle school. He was playing football in middle school by the time we were trying to play high school D&D. It would
Nonsense,
not have worked.
nonsense. Grab him anyway.
He fucking stole it.
Just be like, he's like, "No, I want to get chicks in middle school," and you're like, "Nah, I got you, fam.
Nah, I got
You
you,
can
fam.
be a
You
dragon. Hold on, you can be a dragon. That's way cooler than getting chicks."
hold up, fam. I got these rocks that give you endorphins.
These
They
the
make a
dough
good sound.
we call it the dough delicious.
Fucking love it. But man, it's weird. Like I hear all the. I want to play more. I want to play so much more D&D
It's just
because
so
I've
it's such a
fallen in.
pain in the butt because everyone has responsibilities, man.
Right now we're old and decrepit with responsibilities.
Decrepit. I hope I'm not decrepit. I was
We're
saving that
fucking
for my younger years.
saving that for my younger years. But like I've fallen into this trap
It's a
of
trap.
watching YouTube videos of like D&D stories, and some of them are stupid. Some of them are really bad.
Yeah.
But there are ones that are so cool, and it's just like I want to do that.
Hmm.
Like I want to live that, and hopefully we'll be able to soon. Because we're looking into playing more D&D campaigns. We're looking into incorporating some D&D onto our channels, and not only that, but just playing outside of stream and having a good time with it.
Hmm.
And that's some other stuff that I'm really excited about as well. But what are some of your? I've pulled at least a couple of mine, but what are some of your other really good stories? Maybe this will kind of set the tone of us as people for the audience by
Oh yeah.
hearing like our goofy ass bullshit.
Well, so I've had so many weird situations with so many good moments, and so many like weird moments with me. Um, like because I've done so much of DMing that I don't get to be a player that often, and so like when I'm a player, I always love having like this super like elaborate plan of what my character wants to do. And
Right,
most of the time, when I do put that much effort in, the DM of that campaign either has like a specific thing
closes
in mind
it.
or is just free form and they're like, do whatever you want, man. So I mean like I've had situations where our cleric would like would hoard all the healing potions because the cleric wanted to do all the healing. But then the cleric would use all their spell slots on like animate dead, inflict wounds, and everyone's just dying. And we're like, give it to me, give me the healing potions. And we just get into like in party fights on that. But I mean, uh, one of my favorite moments probably now of course like when I'm put on the spot, like it's just all of it's like, oh, you've
Right.
never played D&D in your entire life. What do you mean?
What
Just
are you talking about?
because I remember all sorts of situations I put you guys through on the level 50 campaign. And
I
like just
wish I
so
remembered more of that. It's such a blur to
I
me.
remember the second summer way more than the first summer because the first summer I sent you, there was like basically like 3 arcs. The first arc, I sent you south to go stop a munitions deal. That was basically like a rival country was
I
being
remember
smuggled weapons.
Friend. That's what I
Friend,
remember so much
he
of
was
was
he was second. He was second summer. Was friend. Yeah, you guys met him once in the first summer, but
one
basically,
time in the first summer.
yeah. And so basically, it was just this really poorly done. Basically, it was an NPC. It was a merchant, but he was a recurring merchant, and I did a really poor, like a really bad Russian
It was
accent.
you were somewhere between Russian and Saudi, and I cannot for the life of me.
I
I
don't
don't
know
think
where
we
it
can
came from, but
replicate. Hello, friend. I bring you good things and good tidings. I hope you would like my airship that's going to fucking crash into the ground, by the way. Fuck yourself. We
but
took that bitch under the ocean. We saw a Leviathan. It was
it was
right
pretty.
there.
It was a good time. No, but in the first summer, it was like I sent you guys to stop a munitions deal, and it was basically like goblins. So the idea was I wanted you guys to go fight these level 1 goblins and be like, ah, yeah, level 1. This is gonna be easy peasy. And the weapons were designed to basically, I wouldn't call them antimatter because that just sounds like now we're sci-fi. But basically, it was like magic BS that could just slice through armor and just like slice through anything. And so the goblin would run up with this little sword and he'd be like trembling and he'd hit you for like 6 damage. And you'd be like, what? How do you even. Everyone would be confused as to why this even happened. And then like that would be like the intro. Or like he hits like an NPC and the NPC fucking explodes. But that was the whole point. But obviously it quickly derailed because I learned, because this was my first campaign where I DM'd, I learned that I have a really hard time just like when people are like really investigating into something. I have a hard time not rewarding them for it because I want them to investigate. You guys
Right.
ended up in like a small desert or like a huge desert, but it was a small town in the desert.
I
And you guys
vaguely
said,
remember.
What's up with this?" And you go, "You oh nothing
Oh
really." You look up, but there's
no!
two
I
suns.
remember this.
There was two suns, and everyone's like, "What?" Yeah, there's this red one that's like right above you. It doesn't rotate with the planet, but it's like the other one is the normal sun. And
Fuck, I
it was like,
remember that all now.
yeah, and so you ended up going. You got imprisoned by some guards
This was the
because you
game.
were
No, this was the game that I didn't have my character sheet. I remember this because I was stuck in that goddamn jail cell playing Bree's character.
right
I was
because you
playing
didn't
Bree's
bring it.
character,
You didn't bring it. You forgot it, and we were all upset
and
with you.
so I was playing a character that was pre-made by Bree. And what happened was I was jailed, and so there was this process of me like it started with just my arm of turning into my actual character, but I
Yeah,
kept
because I was
failing
poly.
whatever role I had to make, and this fucking scarab like on the wall kept like flamethrowering me, and I'm like, no, stop, please let me go.
So in my
And then
head,
God
in
saved
my
me from
head,
it.
now with about 6 years between us and that game, it's a little fuzzy. But the idea was, uh, this curse would just kind of, it's like not really a polymorph, but more of like a reincarnation spell. And the idea was I was just laser beaming the character, whoever you were playing, and turning you into the actual character you're supposed to play.
I didn't
And
take damage.
it was fun. You came back. We used damage to like to reinforce or negatively
Bad
reinforce.
behavior.
Negative reinforcement. That's what we used the damage for with you. Where we were just like, no, don't do that. 10 points of damage, and you're like, damn, dang it. And so yeah, so the whole point was there's a big pyramid, and it was like floating, like just like maybe like 20 feet above the ground, and it
Mhm.
was like just this big cult, this like scarab cult, and they were trying to like resurrect a dead god.
And
And I think
they
the
kind
whole
of
thing
did.
ended with Tenchi hitting him with a reincarnate spell, and he just reincarnated. And I was
But you're
like,
forgetting the best part. When I cast Earthquake on the floating
yes,
pyramid
and that's
and
what
took
caused
it
it to
all
crash. Yeah,
down, not only that, but it
yeah.
also like rained fire in the desert for a long time, and it destroyed the entire village.
Oh
All
yeah, it everything was
because I
destroyed.
cast
Yeah,
Earthquake within the pyramid,
and the
and you're
whole
just like
earthquake just started violently
you
just
fucking
exploding.
like the whole table looked at me and went. what? And you're just like, I'm a roll with it. Let's go. And then like the whole fucking
Well, so
thing
it was the
came
second
down.
sun, right? So the sun was floating, and then the
Yeah, the
sun,
second
and
sun
then
was
once
like
the
the god.
pyramid collapsed, the sun up there collapsed, and it just started raining down the flames from the sun.
Not only that, but then the reincarnated guy became a DMPC,
Yeah,
which eventually became the vessel for two separate gods of fire and lightning.
it was a whole
And
mess and
had
a half. It was a
it was
whole mess and a
so
half.
stupid. It
It
was
was.
literally an avatar of two gods at the same time. What a mess.
To put it simply, it was my way of enjoying the madness as well as everyone else.
You did you
Combat,
make that up on the spot? Did you make that
everything,
up entirely?
everything.
Oh
That
my god.
everything was made on the spot on that campaign, except where you were going and like kind of why. The motivations were kind of fixed. Um, like I had like my DM screen and my laptop, but on my laptop the only thing that was there was like a text, like a little text document that said like this organization question mark this, and then DM notes and then notes where it's like what did you do, what did I say you guys did.
And and you see, this gives me a little hope because I have like a million ideas for the campaign that I want to bring you guys through.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I have a lot. I have no idea how to get you guys to that point. I have zero idea and zero connections between either of these points. And I'm just like, I'm gonna have a rough time. But this is cool.
Yeah, I just kind of started big. I made like a big world. I didn't even make the world map. I used
Well, I've
the I
created
used
my
the
world.
Pathfinder. I used the Pathfinder
Oh
world
yeah.
map. I picked like one random guy who ruled one country at some point, and then I just started changing anything I needed to fit whatever I needed. And so you guys went to kind of go back to what we were saying before. So like the first arc was you guys go through that desert place, the desert town, with the scarab cult, and then you went to the next area, which was where the munitions were, which is where the
I
munition deal was.
vaguely
You
this I
guys went
remember
into
less
this
than a
room.
year
This room was entirely designed for the rogues to really spotlight because combat lasted 19 years. If you guys have long, if you've ever had a long combat session, level 50 combat does not get easier. It takes longer because the fights need to mean something. And if the fights
ago.
need to mean something, my interpretation was make level 50 enemies, and they were just everything was stupid. Everything was insane. And
Put
so
it
it'd
into
be like
perspective.
Matt would go, he'd be like, all right, it's time. I got 5 attacks. All right, hold on. What's 6 plus 32 plus 54? Oh, wait, no, because this is. What type of enemy is this? Hold on. And he's got the TI 84. He's sitting there. I'm like, Matt, he's probably dead. We're going to move on to the next person's turn. Tell me what the big number is at the end. We'll come back when
I
we come
remember
back
you said,
around.
hold on, I think I still have this character sheet behind me.
You don't need to go looking for it. He wouldn't go looking for it.
Oh, I did. But I have 14 attacks per round
Yeah, it was something stupid. Like the
because
game
it
was
was mostly
clearly
built in two-handers.
yeah, because with two weapon fighting in Pathfinder, the number of attacks in your offhand scaled, uh, is to the best of our knowledge. Please remember, anyone who actually knows the rules of
This was
Pathfinder,
6
we did
years
our
ago, and we were younger and scared people back then.
we were prioritizing running a level 50 campaign over and having fun over following the rules correctly. All the rules were thrown out the window the moment we decided to make level 50s.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
everything was broken, and it was the best.
and I was just like, so that was that. So when you guys went to the munitions deal, you guys started fighting the orcs. Uh, Matt gave me this confused, dirty look the whole time after he got stabbed by one of the goblins, and he's just like, "What? How does that deal damage to me?
How does
What?"
that even touch me?
And he's just so like upset with
Okay,
the whole
given he
thing.
did have like a 27 con or a 27 AC or something stupid. Like,
Yeah,
how
he
would
had
a
a 50.
goblin
He had a
ever
54 AC. That's
at
how
the end of
ridiculous
the
it was.
game? I thought.
No, you guys didn't really get gear, by the way.
Well, we kind of did in the second year, not the first year. I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
give it that the first year was pretty static. We didn't really need anything because we were given like 1.5 billion gold per
I gave
because
you 1,000,000 gold. I said spend it on whatever you want, no holds barred. Uh,
and then Matt bought every magic item available to him.
but that's what a level 50 would have.
You're
Like
right.
it's not even that ridiculous. It's not even that
17
ludicrous.
rings on each finger, baby.
Why do I only get 2 ring slots if I got 10 fingers?
Oh, I got 10 toes. Can I throw a toe ring in that bit?
But yeah, so uh, you guys were going through this like you did went through this munitions deal, killed all the guys. There were some bandits that were not actually bandits. They were like assassins because they're level 50 bandits. They're just like just a bold, plain, highly trained for their whole lives assassins. Get out of my face, nerd! And you just slap them away.
Just 50, just like 7,000% stronger than the average person.
Even though over the extraordinary person, you guys were way stronger. But the whole point of this dungeon, of this like hideout, was for the rogues to be able to go in and like find it and like find all the loot because it wasn't really a munitions deal. It wasn't like normal munitions. It was like black
I
market
remember
magic
this.
items. There was an orb of
I
dragon
do
kind.
remember this.
There's an orb of dragon kind, and that's what you liked because you were a half dragon. And
Mhm.
in the combat, the goblin picked it up and used it to command you to fight the other people. And that was what really kind of made the combat turn on its head because they were like, I could just kill him. And you were like, no, don't kill me.
No, don't kill me.
And they were like,
I remember that
well,
now.
yeah.
Like just enough, I remember that. Okay, the other thing about this game is that this is also the first real long-term game that I was in.
Mhm.
So, while Matt had like 3 pieces of paper, and Bree and Tenchi maybe had a couple pieces of paper between them, I came in with a 1-inch 3-ring binder, literally overflowing with every single thing I needed to know about my character, printed off from online.
Do
You
not
guys looked
start
at me.
playing. Do not start playing D&D or
Play at
Pathfinder
level 2. Play
level
at
1.
level
Start at level
2.
1. Start at level 1. Just go from level 1 up. It's the best way to
Because
start.
I was like, I'm gonna need all this because I don't know what any of this does. And then you're just like, you're never gonna use any of this. I probably used 5 pages out of the probably 100 that I printed off.
Oh yeah. And I was just like, you don't need. Yeah, that's why everyone was like, don't like multi-class like you're doing because you had 10 levels in this, 5 levels in this. You were like dipping into everything.
No, I had 20 but everyone was mad at me because I picked cleric because it didn't mesh with barb or fighter in a correct way. It didn't give me
Was
extra
it really
attacks.
just barb fighter cleric?
Cleric, yeah.
I don't feel. I feel like you picked. I thought you went 20 10 10, and you had like some
No,
specialization and something else.
no, Matt just memed on me the entire time because I didn't pick like a multi or not a
You didn't
multi-class,
pick
but
any. To be fair, he memed on
I
you
didn't pick
because you
whatever
didn't
the
use any of.
ascension class or whatever the hell the you have to have like a certain number of levels in each class to get to this class, and then you can take levels in it.
Oh, yeah, there
I don't
was
know what
some
they're
really weird
called.
prestige classes, but uh,
Prestige classes, that's what they were. I didn't pick a prestige class that melded. He was like, you could have picked like any of the things that are fighter or barbarian, and I'm like, no, I want to
dude,
heal people.
you could have picked rogue, and it would have made sense. But it was like
It would.
you didn't use any of your cleric abilities, and it was like we totally had a situation at some point when we were in the scarab like desert town where you were like, "Oh wait, I can do this as a cleric," and everyone's like, "You're a cleric? Like, who do you worship?" You're like, this guy." It was just an
Because it was like
absolute mess.
Grumsh or something. It was literally like
I hope it
Grumsh,
wasn't
the orc
Grumsh.
warlord.
I hope it wasn't Grumsh. That would have made you evil.
I was CN. I was
Oh
CN,
my
so I
god,
was
you
one
were,
step
weren't you?
away.
You were. That was that was a mess. But yeah, so you went through this dungeon and you ran through it. You walked through it. Everyone was upset you did this, but you walked straight through it. All the traps started going off. You're like, I can find these traps. I'm like, no, no, they're all scaled to level 50, so you'll never find them.
And then no, I'm gonna find them. And then I got caught in a glue trap for 8 rounds.
You did get caught in a glue trap for 8 rounds.
I remember, and there was some shit like happening to my right. I can't remember what it was, but there was like some dangerous shit happening to my right. I'm just like trying to free myself from this glue trap.
It was all sorts of mess. It was just a huge
It was
mess.
so much.
So after
I
that
love
though,
playing. I love playing brain dead characters like that because it's so much fun to justify your actions at the table.
you guys went through that. I honestly don't remember the dungeon, like really, except for the entrance. The rest of it just out of my head. I don't remember. But
It was
after
just a
that,
bunch of
you
bull.
guys got sent to go kill a monster on the opposite end, like on the north side of the continent. And so you guys went back to the original town, spoke with the guy who gave you the quest. He's like, "I need you to go kill this thing."
The archmage guy. I
Do
remember
you
that.
remember Do you remember the town that was in like full lockdown, like full lockdown, and you had to sneak in to get out, and you guys had to leave through the sewers? You guys remember this, or do you remember this?
Barely, if at all. I
It was
don't.
it was, it was horribly Soviet Russia themed, or like uh the government
I,
Big Brother kind of thing.
I want to remember this so bad, but it's just not coming to the forefront of my
I don't
brain.
think you did. I don't remember exactly what you did during all of this, but you guys. Oh, because so you guys took a blimp. So when you guys
We took
after
friends blimp.
no, it wasn't Friends blimp. It was just a normal ass blimp. And you guys went to like basically America, but it wasn't America, and there was a bunch of bunch of junk. Like it was just a bunch of shops and whatnot. And it was very like capitalism kind of set up. And then you go into the next nation over, and it's like full on Big Brother. Everything's in lockdown. You
God, I
guys
want to remember this so bad, but I just don't. Maybe it's because I'm trying. This wasn't the way it was described to me, and I'm
probably not.
remembering it a certain way.
I just don't remember what you did. I don't
I
remember
don't
what you
remember.
did during this. I don't remember what you did much at all, to be honest. So you
I
probably were
didn't
just
do
like
much.
going with it. You're probably just
You know
going
what
with
the
it.
you know what the one thing I remember vividly
Yeah.
it, at the end of I think it was the end of the first summer.
Mhm.
We met with the archmage, like the hyper
Yeah,
20
the
cast
Primarch. It was the
instant,
Primarch.
yeah, the Primarch. We met with him and he's like recapping what we did, and he's like, so you blew up a village in the desert, destroyed the weapons that we were supposed to acquire. You know, I'm gonna let this slide. But then as he was walking back, I think you know the punchline to this joke. But as we were walking away and he was walking away, you said, and then he turns and goes, and didn't one of you get their ass kicked by a fucking scarab? And I literally looked at my character, leaned across the table, and wait a minute, motherfucker.
So the
And
whole
then
point
that
of
was where the
that,
session ended.
so the whole point of that was that Bree's character was reporting to the Primarch about all of you,
Yeah, I remember that.
and that's why he knew about that. But yeah, he was. I threw shade. I was there was so much
That was the
shade.
hard. You bitch, and then you're like, session's over, we're done.
No, I think he was just like, you said what, and like he just looked at you, and you were like, all right, fine.
That was the best.
But yeah,
I
so
think
the first summer was really weird. We were left in
because
like
we
a
didn't know
weird
what we were
spot.
doing.
We left off in a weird spot. Everything was horribly unbalanced and broken, and we probably weren't playing the rules right. But
Yeah,
uh, and the second summer
we
was
ended with like a semi demigod DMPC that was wandering around with us.
yeah, he
You
was so
literally
weird.
transformed like I want to say it was a Yuan-Ti, but that just might be my
No, I
internal
was just a
flavor.
human. It was
But you literally you were like he's reincarnated as an elf in the rubble. You're like, okay, he's
oh
coming
yeah,
with
he was
us.
an
I
elf,
don't even,
wasn't he?
yeah, and it was so fun. That campaign was like if I were to do it again, I probably would just to like actually do it with real rules and try.
No, it was we had real rules. We followed the rules.
I
Matt
mean,
was
like
rules lawyering as much as he could throughout the whole
you know what?
thing.
I'm gonna rephrase. I would like to do it knowing now what I
Being
didn't know
conscious.
then.
You want to
Just
do it
how to play the
consciously.
game.
Yeah, no, I can feel that. I feel that. But yeah, so the second summer was it was just a mess. The second summer I actually had a plot. I actually had like an idea of where to make you guys go to do these things. And it was like since we ended the first summer with you guys like in the middle of doing a mission and you guys never went back to report, he's like, "Hey, you guys have been gone for like a year. I don't know where you guys went, but if you come back, I would greatly appreciate it." And like some of your character, some of your, I think maybe Bree's character was like apologetic. I think Matt's character was apologetic. I mean, he worked for the Primarch, so I mean that makes more sense.
I think
And
I
then
was
you walked in, and you're just like, "Yeah, I'm here, whatever." Like you're trying to be all nonchalant
chaos
about it,
neutral, baby.
and and this one was more of like there was a plot. It ended. The campaign actually had an end, and that was the
I
funniest
remember
bit.
it ending, but I can't remember what the ending was.
The ending was so basically they were trying to summon an old god onto this realm. And it was this necromancer who
Oh
was the
no, I
lead,
do remember.
and
The
a
literal
tentacle had
second
come
you said
out.
old guy.
A tentacle had come out, had crushed the necromancer, and then caused the portal to wherever the old god was to collapse, and it decimated everything in like a 10-mile radius of the mountain. And the
I do
only
remember that.
character that actually ended up dying, because all y'all had some busted OP stuff, was Tenchi's second character, who was like this really bad,
Oh, the
really low
Cavalier
stat, the
character.
Cavalier, because he was outside at the front of the dungeon because you guys didn't want him to get hurt.
I remember that.
Eh,
That I was It
Him
was such
and
a
the
weird.
mounts
It was
got
like a level.
vaporized.
He was level 50, but he had no stats because he had lost his mount and was a coward because of it. He had
Oh
like some
yeah,
trauma.
yeah. She,
But then she
yeah,
had this. What the fuck was that thing called?
the
It had
mammoth.
a weird name. It was a shadow creature.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Was it the race?
Tiefling is not the right word, but it was
No, no, no.
really
It was like
similar to
some
that.
weird shadow race.
I
Race.
keep wanting to say Yingling, but that's a beer.
Wei Yang.
Wei Yang,
It
that's
was
right. Wei
so
Yang.
so this player character's actual like serious alchemist character was a Wei Yang that was attached to this. What was the race of the Cavalier?
Human?
Yeah, I
It was
think
a
it was.
shitty little. It was literally the most basic dumb character, and he was useless every single time.
Yeah, I think
I
it was a
want to say his name was
paladin. It was a
Benji or something.
paladin who went against his oath, who was also a cavalier who didn't have his
And he
mount.
like, and I think, yeah, his mount was killed by I think
No,
a
it was just
consequence he made,
no, it's just gone. He lost it. He had a whole side quest where he went to go get it.
and then we killed it again instantly. I think.
No, because after that, then you guys just went. Uh, you got the mount. That was when you guys went to hell. Because he
Oh
didn't
yeah,
come.
because that was his personal
Yeah,
hell
he
was
didn't go to.
seeing the mount again. And
No, no, no. He went to go get his mount over at the mount, over at the mountains. Because he's like, "Is this where my mount would be?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, yeah, that's exactly where it
I
would have been.
vaguely remember that happening.
It was because it was like a mammoth or something, but it was
Yeah, it
something
was a mammoth. I
ridiculous.
remember that.
And it was like I was like, "Yeah, Mammoth Peak. There's mammoths." And he's like, "Can I just go get?" Tenchi was like, "Can I go get a mammoth?" I was like, "Yeah." So Tenchi's like Dingle character went off to go do that, and
A
then
dingle.
everyone else went into the tomb, and everyone got killed by the assassin, and then you all got sent to hell. You all had your own personal little like horror
What was
vision.
mine? I can't remember.
I actually remember yours very vividly. You were in a desert, and you were basically
Oh, and I had
slowly
no
dying of
water.
dehydration and hunger, and basically as you started dying of dehydration, there was this big castle that was just slowly getting closer and closer to your horizon, getting closer and closer until
I
eventually you
remember a little bit
died.
of this now.
Basically, it was like the idea was you were there, you were stuck there for what was a if you had counted for basically 10,000 years of just dehydration and suffering. In reality, it wasn't that long, but it felt
Yeah,
that long. And after like your suffering ended and everyone else was brought, oh, smack my mic. After everyone else's suffering ended, you were brought into what was his name?
was it
Asmodeus's castle.
Asmod?
It was
Yeah, it was
Asmodeus.
Asmodeus.
It was Asmodeus's castle because he wanted to talk to y'all about like he wanted help because basically there was
The
the
old
abyss
god
was
was
opening.
literally going
No, the
through it.
abyss was opening, and the reason the abyss was opening was because the necromancer who was going to summon the old god, he was doing some nefarious stuff that caused the abyss to just open onto the planet, and it was the demons were pouring out everywhere. So he wanted your help with that. Uh, I, in my infinite wisdom, was like, he just doesn't like the demons because it's like a petty thing. It was like if the demons get to be on the earth and I don't, like I don't like that. Like it was just it could have been a lot. It could have been a lot smoother. But eventually, hell opened up on the planet too, because if you remember, there was a portion of the second summer where you met this like devil NPC, and he was just like, "Let me go," and he was like chained up,
I do remember that.
and you
I
guys
do
were just
remember that.
like trying to talk to him and get his words out, and he's like, "No, I'm not gonna
Yeah, we
weasel."
kept trying to reason with him and get him to make promises. He was like, "No, I don't promise anything."
Well, no, because he would make promises that were like super like very suspicious, and then you guys were like, "No,"
Yo, demon NPC sus.
and that was supposed to be Matt's like nemesis character, but that never ended up being anything because we started running out of time.
I remember that. It was supposed to be Matt just like straight hated that character the entire time that we had interact. Like every
Well, I
word
kept
out
bringing
of
it up. I
Matt.
kept bringing it up. So it's like when he first
No,
interacted with,
everything. That was like the angriest and meanest I've ever seen Matt. He was just venom the entire time.
but yeah,
Like, damn.
he like it's like it was him. He left after you guys freed him. He like just was like, all right, I'll tell you where to go now. This is where you go. All right, I'm out, and he teleported out. Where he did like a little devil like snap of his fingers, and he's out. Um, and and then afterwards you were on the airship, and Matt saw the wave of like the horde of like devilkin that were just roaming this like the countryside. And he just sees the guy leading the warband and just jumps off and flies towards him because he has angel wings because
I
he's a
do
super paladin.
remember that.
And he
Matt
just
fucking
jumped, and everyone's
followed him.
like, well,
That is in. To be fair, that's exactly what Matt's character would have done, and it was great role play.
it was
But
good role
like,
playing. I'll do another what is it? I'll put another thing in and say that we are not doing this justice. We are not remembering this to
no,
justice.
this was
But
6 years ago, and we haven't talked about it in probably 4.
there was
Like,
there was so much drama in the game, out of the game. I don't
it
understand
was
how
a
we
lot of
managed to do
fun,
that.
but it dude, that game was held together with duct tape and dreams. Like there was nothing supporting that game. The only reason I think that that game held on as long as it did is because we were in high school and we all lived probably 2 miles from each other. Oh,
You lived really close to
I
Matt, and then Matt.
no, I still live really close to you,
No, you lived closer to Matt than you lived closer than to me
I
because you lived
guess,
on
but
Delord. If you
I
still
still
live
do.
on Delord, yeah, no, I mean it was still my mom's house, so you guys were still really close to each other.
Yeah,
But yeah, so it would be you and Matt would come down, and uh, yeah, and then Tenchi and Bree lived on like the same road, and that road was right
yeah.
next to my
Tenchi and Bree
house.
lived actually really close to me as well. I actually remember the place
You
we
remember
lived
that?
in.
Do you remember the evil campaign? That was a mess.
That is actually a story that I've been waiting to tell this entire podcast because that evil campaign, the
Such a
climax of
mess.
that evil campaign
I'm
is
sort of a
probably
businessman by. I'm sort of a businessman myself.
you have
Just
no
you
clue.
you hand you played. You were an android. This was even more of a mess. But we
I
at
was
least
a
started that.
construct.
You were a construct. I thought you were the
We
android. I
it
swear you
was
were
an
the android.
android race that we redubbed as a construct.
I think it was the android. No, because you wanted to be an android, and you played it like a robot. And like you're supposed to like blend into society, but you'd just be walking around like a bounty hunter, and you'd just be the most conspicuous person on the planet.
Okay, there's a lot of context to this game.
I
There's a
even if we
lot of
give you
context.
all of it, it still didn't make it make
Oh, it's
sense.
still bad. It doesn't make any sense that I played this character terribly. Like,
I had a
okay,
lot of laughs, so I mean, honestly, I don't think it was that bad.
it was a great laugh. But the character was an android gunslinger
Yeah,
who we started at
sure
level
comes.
1. We started at level 1. We got all the way up to 10, which I thought was great. But so the way I worked is I was a contract killer. A sniper I at one point we we retconned in that I had a forge in my chest that I could use to melt down old metal and turn it into bullets. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Um, but I loved
You
playing
tried
the
shoving
character.
everything into that portable furnace of yours. Like you tried to shove all your loot in there, and you're. What are you doing?
I didn't shove the loot in there.
Yeah, you did. You
I
shoved
just
like
it was
you
like
shoved like
long swords.
contracts and like shit like that in
No, I
there.
shoved like long swords and armor that I ripped apart. But the thing with this character,
I
I
think
did
you
play him
played
as
it
a
like a
robot.
weird. You played it like Bender from Futurama.
I
Honestly,
did kind of play it like Bender, just a little bit, but way more awkward. At one point, I to quote what Ethan just said, I can't even remember the context. I think I was talking to some. I think it was a shop owner who wanted
or were
somebody
you talking
in.
about? Yeah, you went to Smith and Wesson, or yeah, Smith and Wessons. Wessons? What is it?
Yeah,
Smith
it's
and
Smith and Wesson's
Smith
is the real one, but Tenchi did swap the
something.
last. Yeah,
It was
but
like
I
Smith
was like,
and something else, but it was
yeah,
clearly the same
Smith
thing.
and Wesson, the gun company.
Yeah.
But we were messing with that, and I'm like, I'm sort of a. I literally go, I'm
You
sort
were
of a
asking
small.
for a deal because you wanted a bunch of weapons for free,
Oh
and
yeah, and they were like, we're a small business. We need to keep our
you're just like, why are
we
you?
need to keep our and I was just like, they're like, we're a small business, we need to keep our profits high, and I'm like, I'm sort of a small businessman myself, but that immediately to everyone at the table turned into, I'm sort of a small businessman myself, and that was the biggest joke of the entire campaign.
Well, because you
Was
made these ridiculous business decisions, and then you'd shoot them, and it was just like, all right, I'm gonna go kill. What was it? You had to kill one target, so you set the whole building on fire and like
I
killed
did
everyone.
I that was it was like a party, I remember, and I did set the entire building on fire. I also remember that. And I remember the fucking person that gave the contract was like, I'm like, "Can I get my payment now?" And he's like, "You killed everyone. I was lucky to make it out. I was at that party."
You
And
almost
you're
killed
just
them.
like, "Yeah." And I literally looked at him and went, "Yeah, but he dead though."
We had a quest where we needed to infiltrate the king, like the castle, and talk to the king. And
Uh-huh.
you just shot him. You shot the king.
That's the story I was about to tell. That's the story, and this is one of my favorite things that I've ever done in D&D, and most of it was by accident.
All of it was by
That's the
accident.
best part. The consequences of this were things that I did not know about. And here's how it went. No, no, you will
Yeah, yeah, no, no,
understand
no,
why
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
telling this story.
Yeah, no, I know.
So the way it worked out, um, so we were trying to get in. So what I remember is that the place that we were at was
Hmm.
a kingdom that was deathly afraid of vampires. And because of this, every one of the roofs in their city was made out of glass. Everything in the city, the roofs were all made of glass,
Yeah,
which
because
made my
Bree's character was supposed to be like this vampire princess thing, like the princess, like
so
some noble vampire.
right.
You
And
know.
the way it worked out was that I was approached at a gathering by some random lord. I can't remember his name. But he was like, I heard you're a small businessman. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not
Right,
gonna end
because
up.
then she was just saying you.
And she memed me hard. But he's like, I need a job done. I'm like, okay, what's the job? I need the king, prince, and the princess dead. And I'm like, okay. How much you gonna pay me? And he's like, name your price. And I thought about it for a minute. And you remember how I said 200,000 gold a head? I almost said 5,000 gold a head, which is what made me stop, pause, and think. That's not enough gold.
That's a lot of gold for a small town, but
It
still,
was like a port city, I thought.
a
It
million
was
gold
still a
is a
town.
hard to come by because it was like a low
Okay, it was
economy.
600,000 gold total. But
A lot of gold,
moving
man.
on from that idea,
All of our
I
campaigns
was like,
usually broke because just because of like
dumb
just
shit.
no, just gold. We usually just have too much gold injected into the players in most of our campaigns.
But here's where I broke things. Because I said, okay, and I left the party and waited. I climbed up onto a because apparently, if I remember correctly, the castle or whatever the nobility was in where they held court also had the glass roof, but
Hmm.
also had buildings surrounding it that were at least as tall or taller
Yeah, because it was kind of like
than
a cathedral thing where you had the big main building and
yeah.
then you had two like big tall buildings next to it.
But the whole thing was made out of glass. So what I did was I jumped up on a rooftop about a block and a half from the cathedral where I knew everyone was. I got up, climbed a castle, seat a princess, alone in a bedchamber, shoot the princess, immediately falls flat. I think it was a nat 20, so it didn't make any sound either. It was a super quiet shot.
Yeah, Tenchi did the nat 20 like defies physics.
She also had Rule of Cool and Rule of Evil in that campaign, where she would randomly give out like +2 bonuses to cool shit, and she would let you know like you're about to do something fucking cool. You get a +2, and I'm like, okay. Then I wrapped around and got to where I could look down into the place and see the king in his throne and the prince next. So the whole ceiling is glass, and this is a cool ass cinematically. This is fucking amazing. Super, like I
That's
remember
not
this
how I
so much.
remember it at all, by the way. But it didn't sound cinematic at all. It sounded ham-fisted. And we're
Okay,
just like,
in
all
my
right, so
head,
we're gonna talk to the. You knew what the party wanted to do, but you were
I
always.
had no idea. I
Yes,
had
you did. You
zero
were
idea.
like, no, 100% you did because we were all together. We're like, all right, we'll talk to the king. Blah blah blah. We were all planning like intrigue and like try to sneak our way in and try to like can manipulate the king. You had picked up an assassination contract, didn't tell any of us, and you're just like, we're like, all right, so where's the android? And the king has a has a hole in his head, right through his eye. But keep
It
but
was
keep going. But keep
okay.
explaining.
Okay, so the way this worked in my head was I kind of like, if you know Jin from League of Legends,
Yeah,
Jin is what I think the character looks like.
yeah, traditional
But more like,
sniper, but like
more
yeah,
like High Noon Jin than like regular Jin. Um,
yeah, cowboy robot shoots sniper rifle from long distance away.
so in my head, what I was up in a building, shot, killed the princess immediately, hopped a couple rooftops,
Yeah,
shot down in through the glass ceiling, shattered. The king is dead with a hole through his head.
yeah.
The whole crowd is panicking. The prince runs into the crowd and is holding people like around him to try and hide. I shoot down at the prince. I think I still got like an 18, but the roll missed because I it was still like with three-quarters cover with objects in the way. Then
There's
I
a lot of
looked at my
nonsense.
sheet and Matt looked at my sheet and went, "Wait, you have a skill that makes it so that your shots ignore cover."
Yeah,
So I shot down, killed the king, broke the ceiling, hopped another roof, shot the prince, and was gone before anybody knew what happened. Why I say that the consequences of what I did were accidental was that for a session, a 4 hour session before this happened, and for a couple hours during the session where this happened, I Tenchi had a really strong policy of passing notes. She loved notes. She loved secrecy between the characters and between DM.
hmm
Bree, unbeknownst to me, had been passing notes for 6 total hours between when when she first started talking with the princess
this got you a lot of
and
flack.
when I shot the princess.
She
Bree
was
had wormed her
literally
way.
doing a whole political thing separate of. So this is. So let me explain the dynamic. So the group was uh Jesse, Sohn, myself, you, Matt, Tenchi as the DM, and Bree.
And Bree.
Jesse, this was his first ever introduction to tabletop RPGs, so he was new. Matt and myself were just kind of doing whatever, and you wanted to be big machinations, big big plans, big businessman, big robot man assassin who shoots guns in this high fantasy setting. And Bree also had political machinations, but hers was like novel sized, pre planned. Yours were like on the spot. I could kill them. And you were just like a murderer psycho robot with like, like
Chaotic neutral, baby.
that's not how you play chaotic neutral, but you were a mess. It was great to watch.
But
But it
but
got you so much flack because she had set this all up and she was just hours of her
and
life were just
and at the end,
crumbled to
because
dust.
Bree had kept quiet during this whole thing, the entire time I was shooting up this cathedral. Uh, Bree had kept quiet, and as the dust settles, Bree kind of like turned, looked at me, and said, "Fuck you." She was like, "I'm like, what? What did I do?" And she's like, "You just ruined like every plan I ever had, all in one bullet." And I'm like, "Okay."
I have something about assassin myself. And it was so funny because Matt immediately jumped. He went like he was the biggest opportunist of all of this because he cast mimic the dead or undead mimicry or something like that. Basically, it turns a corpse into a puppet and with
And you
invisible
you
threads.
puppeted the king.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. He puppeted the king I cast a disguise spell on him because I was a bard. I disguised the king to look alive. Matt puppeted him and was like, and we're like, guys, what are you whining about? I'm fine. Like, like these are my two new regents. They're gonna be near me all the time, but I'm good. we we got away with it too. It was such a mess.
And I never got my 600,000
No,
gold
you
because
absolutely different.
you immediately arrested whoever whoever
Yeah, because we
did.
arrested the guy. We're like, he was him. Like, cause I don't remember how it ended up happening, but we ended up just arresting the guy who would pay you.
Okay,
No, he
given.
didn't pay
I
you because he wanted you to kill the king, and he believed the king was still alive. That's what it was. Oh my god, that was it was such a mess. You didn't get paid. All of Bree's
and that
ideas
was
down the
also the
drain.
last session that we played, by the way.
Was it the? No, we had a few
I
more.
believe because we were level 10. That was the last session. We only got to level 10.
I mean, I don't remember. Like, I remember only like a few adventures because we were in a town. We found Bowser.
I remember
You remember Bowser?
Jesse had a gorilla. Or Jesse had Donkey Kong or something going with
Oh
him.
no, I
I
think he
can't
was a
remember.
druid. I think it was a.
He was a druid, but
He
he
turned into a
also
gorilla.
had a gorilla.
No, no, no.
No,
He
we
was
met
a
with the
gorilla.
Gorilla King or something like that. I remember that.
I don't
We met
remember,
with
but
some gorilla grotto.
oh, we went. Yeah, because we were going. This was like Jesse's backstory. We were doing
Yeah,
his
it was
mission,
Jesse's backstory.
and so what ended up happening was we went to a jungle, and it was like a gorilla jungle. Like there was like a group of sentient gorillas, and they're like, we need to go to clear out this orc stronghold. They're imprisoning us, and blah blah blah. And like Jesse's longtime friend, like Tarzan kind of friend, was like imprisoned there, and that was why we were going. And this was completely out of place. We're like a group of evil, maniacal sociopaths.
Look,
I like
if we wouldn't have given him that, I doubt that he would have ever played D&D again.
he didn't really care. He was just sort of enjoying it. It was just like everyone was confused.
It's really nice to see a new player that just is along for the ride and enjoys the fuck out of it without trying to be some weirdo, you know?
True,
Because
true.
I've heard a lot of stories. I've heard a lot of stories about people that had new players come in and they were like, I want to do this, 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 and this. And they were the most active person at the table and had no idea what was going on. And that's great. And I'm glad that they have enthusiasm. But if you don't have a full grasp of the knowledge of the game, sitting back for a while and watching people play might be the way to go sometimes. Because
It's
that's
different for
kind of what
everyone.
I tried to do when I first played. And that's why, like I said earlier, when the poison trap knocked out all of our party members and and like I was the only one left, I was just kind of like, uh, and then I panicked and was like, I'm leaving. They're like, no, and they gave me another chance. But
It was really a big mess, to be honest.
dude, Jared's character was a or Jody. I swear to God, it's not Jody.
It's Jody. I think his name is
But
I forgot his last name. That doesn't matter.
but
But yeah, it's Jody.
he
Jordy. Jordy.
Jordy. Um, but his character was like a kitsune ghost because rocks fell and killed him, and Bree didn't want his character to stay dead. I remember
No, this is
that.
way better. This is way better. This is one of my favorite stories. So I was in two groups. It was Jordy and his brother were co-DMing one, and I was
I
like
remember that.
this. You weren't in that group, but
I wasn't, but I remember you talking.
yeah, and it was like it was their friends. It was Bree and Tenchi and myself, and then it was them. It was kind of a big group, and his character, he was playing and he was a co-DM. This was so weird to me. But the icing on the cake was this was the first day of that weekend. This would have been that Friday or Saturday. It was the Saturday. And so he walked through and he found a stone trap. And basically all it did was drop a gigantic rock on you. Just take a lot of bludgeoning damage and you'd roll and you try to climb out. This
No.
man walked up. He put the trap there. He walked up, nat one, the rock fell on him, and he took a lot of damage. He wasn't dead though. But he did this in the key bit here was that he ran ahead, and we didn't know where he was. So we come up, we see this big rock that's just on the ground. And so
Oh
Bree's
no.
character, who's like this like merciful healer kind of character who would never hurt someone, who's a pacifist, hates taking life or doesn't want to take life or anything like that. She used like a water pushing spell and shoved the rock, and then the rock did more damage and just grinded him to dust. So
No.
her character realized what she had done, and it just caused like an internal crisis for the character. And we're like, oh my god. And his brother was railing him, just going so hard on him about how dumb he was for knowing the trap was there. And I was like, damn. Like on the one hand, that's a little rough. On the other hand, you knew it was there. Why'd you run over there?
On the other
But
hand, damn,
but
that
his
sucks.
defense made even less sense because he's like, I would have
How?
just jumped past it. And we're like, what? How? You were like a barbarian. And he's like, oh, it's all right, whatever. I'll roll a new character. And we're just like, okay, that's all right. We just kind of like we just shrugged. We're like, all right, this just happened. But I was helping Bree with her campaign. This would have been a few sessions before you joined. I was helping her with building traps and building like a maze. I was like, I'll help you build this because I like it comes to me naturally to like just like, oh, put a trap here, just make the path look like this and put this and this. Like it kind of came to me naturally, and so I was like, okay, I'll help out with building it, and then I won't say anything during like I won't metagame during the
Did you
session.
forget about the trap that almost killed the party?
And I
Or
put
did
what? I didn't know about that one. She made that one on
oh.
herself. That was a different dungeon. This is just like a different thing.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
there was a acid pit that we made that was like basically there was like a big patch of fake grass, and if you stepped in it the whole thing fell and just fell into this big pit of acid, and it was a lot of damage, but the DC to see it wasn't high. uh you had a reflex save and a bunch of other stuff, and a bunch of the characters had like weird ways to fly and you could walk around it. I don't remember what level we were, but some people had like 9 companions and stuff like that. But we find it, right? So we get up there. We all make the check to see the trap. Uh, and we knock the thing in, and the whole panel falls down. So you just see this big pit. Oh no! We didn't do that, but we saw how big it was, and we're like, okay, we got a lot of options here. We can fly over it. We can take turns teleporting over there, or doing something, or we can walk around it. Uh, but Jordy's character in this campaign decides I'm gonna try and disarm the trap and make it so that the platform doesn't fall. He walks in, nat ones, the trap activates. He falls in, he nat ones on the dex save, dies abruptly. And we couldn't really defend him. And nobody felt bad for him. Because we all said,
Because he
why did you do
double
that?
nat one.
No, it wasn't even that. Because you would have been like, oh, that's unfortunate, the dice roll. We didn't know. We were just like, why did you do that? We could have just walked around it or flew over it. Why did you go towards the trap and fuck with it to begin with? And he had 2 characters die in one weekend. And I think he wanted his character, or Bree didn't want him to make a new character. I don't remember what the whole reasoning was,
So they
but
just made him a ghost.
yep, they made him a
I
ghost.
remember that.
He was a ghost, and he followed the party, and he was a kitsune ghost. And maybe it was a few sessions later, but that's when you joined in for your fun adventure.
My adventure where I almost TPK'd the party.
Just left us in there to die, but
I take their gear and leave. No.
well, that's manipulative. That would have been interesting. We'd been like, oh, he's evil. No, we just I'm gonna leave because I don't know what's going on.
Chaotic crackhead, bitch. Give me that gear.
I'm not chaotic neutral. I'm chaotic crackhead.
God.
But yeah, so
What
uh,
those are a couple stories from us.
I mean, it was a long mess. It was a long whole mess. It is getting a little late.
We have been going for an hour and 20 minutes. We're usually going to keep the podcast. I'd say even going to an hour and a half works.
Yeah, I think just for
Even
this time,
a little longer than that.
I just
But
have
this is
I
our
have
first
some
podcast.
yeah, I have some stuff that I need to do in a little bit, so
Yeah.
we'll probably wrap it up here.